Taurus, God will take you away from a person for an incredible reason, and you will understand that you are not abandoned. You are being separated by God because He is about to lead you to a place not everyone is invited to. If you are feeling distant, isolated, or as if your soul is pulling away from someone you still love, then this is the reason. In this video, you will understand why God pulls you away from someone who no longer shares the same frequency. Why a broken relationship is not rejection, but protection, and why true peace only begins when you choose yourself. Stay until the end. You will receive a personal message from God for the soul walking through a healing journey. Because you didn't come here by accident. You were called. There are things that seem like losses, but in truth, they are prayers that God has already answered. You just haven't realized it yet. For Taurus, the patient and devoted soul, you often love with all your stability. You don't just give your heart, you build a home, a foundation, a future. You see love as your life's work. And when the other person leaves, or when God separates you from them, you ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Where did my plan fail? But the truth is, you did nothing wrong. You are simply being saved from something that no longer belongs to you. You see, not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some souls come only to create an earthquake, a tremor, to break the solid comfort zone that has been holding you back. And then they leave. You feel the pain, but sometimes God uses pain to save your soul. Because without that separation, you would never stop. You would keep staying, keep building, even when the foundation of your heart has already cracked. It's like the story of a master gardener. Sometimes they must uproot a beautiful tree that has grown deep roots. The act of uprooting it looks painful, but the gardener knows the soil has become toxic. The tree can no longer grow there. The gardener uproots it not to destroy it, but to replant it in more fertile ground, where it can truly thrive. Taurus, so do you. You may have walked away from a relationship with a broken heart, feeling as if your entire world has collapsed. But your soul, it was touched by something sacred, an awakening, a protection you didn't recognize at the time. Many of you, Taurus, are entering a phase where someone is gradually distancing from you. They stop texting, they avoid you, they make you feel insecure, and you blame yourself. Why did they change? Was I not good enough? Was I not patient enough? You spin in questions without answers, but there's one thing you need to understand. This is not rejection. This is when God says, enough. Enough of the nights trying to build on dead soil. Enough of ignoring your own sense of unease to maintain a false sense of stability. Enough of trying to fix something heaven has already marked as ended. There's a story about a man trapped in a collapsing house. He clings to the familiar walls, afraid that if he steps outside, he will face uncertainty, danger. He doesn't know that just beyond the door is safe, solid ground. But he doesn't let go, because familiarity sometimes fools us into thinking it's safe, even when it's slowly killing us. Taurus, are you holding on to something that no longer serves your soul? Are you trying to keep someone who no longer brings you a sense of peace? Are you in a relationship that makes you question your self-worth? Be honest. True love does not exhaust you. Love doesn't make you trade your inner peace just to stay. Love doesn't make you shrink so someone else can feel bigger. God sees what you cannot see. He sees your heart slowly eroding day by day, and He places His hand upon your life, not to break you, but to separate you. Separate you so you can breathe. Separate you so you can remember you are worthy of a more solid foundation. separate you so you can return to yourself. And most importantly, God separates you not to punish you, but to hide you in His protection. He sees you are losing your light. He sees you are sacrificing your precious peace to hold on to something that is no longer yours. So He pulls you back, like a mother pulling her child out of a fire they can't see. But Taurus, I understand. The most painful part isn't losing someone. It's not understanding why. You feel like you have failed, like the structure you worked so hard to build has completely crumbled. But what you don't know is, at the moment you feel left behind, you are being hidden to heal. God always has a plan, and He will not allow anything to stay beside you if it could destroy the divine purpose He placed within you. Let me ask you this. Are you holding on to something you should have let go of long ago? Are you clinging to a soul that no longer walks with you on your mission path? Are you ready to believe that what is being taken from you today might be the very thing you'll thank God for later? If a relationship makes you question your own peace, that's not love. That's a lesson. And God never lets you repeat a lesson you are already ready to overcome. But the strange thing is, you still haven't seen the real reason, because something deeper, more sacred, is being revealed, not with your eyes, but with your soul. And in the next part, you will see why God chose that moment, that person, and that relationship to rewrite your journey. Sometimes, the most painful thing God does is not letting you stay with the person you love the most. And Taurus, that's not because you are unworthy. It's because He knows your stability will slowly be eroded if you keep staying. You might be sitting there with vacant eyes, staring into some void in your memory, and a question echoes in your mind that has never been answered. If God knew they would hurt me, then why did He bring them into my life? That question sounds simple, but it's a silent wound piercing through many souls who are struggling between love and heartbreak. It's not just a question. It's the cry of a soul still waiting for an explanation for something the heart cannot understand. And if you are a Taurus, you have probably asked that question, maybe through tears or in long, silent nights. But let me tell you something. God doesn't send anyone into your life without meaning. Every soul that enters your life brings a mirror to show you who you are, what you're losing, and where you need to return. Some come to trigger the wounds buried within you. Some come so you can learn to let go and hold on to yourself. Some come to remind you you may love, but never abandon your inner peace just to be loved. Behind every breakup is a spiritual lesson. Some lose their youth for a love that is never reciprocated. Some live more than half their life in marriage, but only know tears and sacrifice. Some love with their whole soul only to be left with one cold question: was I not enough? No, Taurus, you lack nothing. You just gave the most sacred part of yourself to a soul who wasn't ready to receive it. And when your heart broke, you thought everything had ended. But that was only the beginning of a new chapter, where peace is no longer something you beg for, but something you choose. If God wanted to separate us, why did He let them enter my life? That question isn't wrong, but it's only true on the emotional level. On the soul level, the answer is completely different. God brought them in so you could learn how to love your own peace. God let them hurt you so you could understand where your boundaries must be. God didn't want you to collapse, but He needed you to awaken. Just like a mother who lets her child fall the first time they try to walk. Not because she wants them to hurt, but because the child needs to feel gravity to learn how to balance. In the same way, you need loss to learn how to cherish. You need pain to understand worthiness. You need to let go to know what it feels like to be held properly. Pain does not deny love. It reveals truth. There are loves so deep that you believe they are destiny, and maybe they really are destiny, but not to stay. Some souls come to touch the deepest part of you, then leave. So you can understand that if love makes you lose your peace, it is no longer love. It is a lesson. Healing doesn't begin when the other person changes. It begins when you accept that you deserve peace. You don't need to wait for an apology. You don't need them to return and fix everything. You just need one thing. Believe that God never takes anything away from you without preparing something better behind it. A woman once said, "I loved someone with my whole life, and I thought he was the miracle that God sent. But then he left without a single explanation. I thought I had died, until I realized he was only the first rain of the season to cleanse the soil within me so something more eternal could bloom. When you let go, you start breathing again. You no longer check your messages 10 times a day. You no longer overthink every glance, every silent pause. You no longer force a smile so others won't see your pain. Because you are no longer in the battle to be loved. You are on a journey back to the light within you. You don't need to understand everything today. You just need to believe God never lets you hurt without a purpose for healing. Your soul was not born to suffer endlessly. Your soul was not made to store the shattered pieces others left behind. Your soul was born for peace, to shine, to be loved completely. No begging, no pleading, no trading. When you stop holding on to someone who's not vibrating on your frequency, you begin attracting the souls who resonate. No more prolonged silences. No more looks that make you doubt yourself. No more nights praying they would see your worth, because you've already seen it in yourself. A 75-year-old woman once said, "After 40 years of tears in my marriage, I left. Not because I stopped loving, but because I no longer chose to sacrifice myself to keep someone else." She breathed again, and peace became the first companion she met after a lifetime of waiting. And you, Taurus, can be the same. As long as you believe you are worthy, as long as you choose to return home to yourself. So, what happens when you stop begging for the presence of someone who no longer belongs in your journey? In the next part, you'll see peace does not lie in someone returning. It lies in the moment you take your own hand and say, "I forgive myself for staying too long." When God wants to separate you from someone, He doesn't send thunder. He only sends a whisper in your heart. And the heartbreaking thing is, you heard that whisper, but you ignored it for too long. In the previous part, you saw God doesn't hurt you to destroy you. He does it to save your soul from a place where light has slowly faded. But the question still remains. How do you know you're being separated or just walking away from something important? How do you tell the difference between a test and a divine warning? The answer lies within you, and its name is your inner peace. Do you remember the first time you felt something was off? The first time you felt the energy between you had shifted and become unsettled? The first time you saw their eyes not entirely with you anymore? The first time you heard a phrase that had no nameable emotion, just a heaviness in your chest? That was it. The whisper of God. Taurus, you are a soul of the earth, of stability. You love with commitment, patience, and a sense of security. You don't need reasons to trust someone, because once you choose them, you build your foundation around them. Venus, your ruling planet, gives you a heart that values harmony, comfort, and peace. But you have used all those gifts to endure for others and forgotten this. Your inner sense of peace is not just a gift to be enjoyed. It is a compass to protect you. How many times Have you felt your peace disturbed, but kept going anyway? You knew you were being taken for granted. You felt like you had to shrink yourself so things could stay stable. You realized you were holding on to a relationship that only you were carrying. And even though your soul screamed many times, "This is not safe anymore," you stayed because you feared change and collapse more than continued pain. Dear Taurus, let me remind you of this. That feeling of unease is God's whisper. It is the spiritual undercurrent. It is how He warns you before the storm comes. You don't need evidence. You don't need that person to say goodbye. You don't need to wait until the day you completely collapse to give yourself permission to let go. That unease is the evidence. Because if your soul feels unsettled, then that is not the place you were designed to stay. Take a moment to reflect. Have you often tried to justify others instead of listening to your own feelings? You say, "Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I'm just tired and overly sensitive. Maybe they love me. They just don't know how to show it." But dear Taurus, you are not overly sensitive. You are being warned by God. God doesn't speak with words. He speaks through emotion. He doesn't knock loudly. He gently shakes your foundation and hopes you are awake enough to stop. Have you ever felt empty after a conversation that seemed fine on the surface? Have you ever cried, not knowing why you felt so deeply sad? Have you ever texted them and felt your heart being crushed? That's not random. That is how God tells you you no longer belong here. And if you're thinking, "But I love them, I don't want to give up. If I try harder, maybe," then remember this: God never pulls you away from true love. He only pulls you away from an illusion, something you thought was love, but was slowly eroding your soul. You don't need to live in doubt anymore. No need to analyze every silence. You don't need to guess whether they still love you today. Because if love makes you lose your peace, then it is no longer love. That is a signal that you need to return to yourself. Do you know the moment you choose to trust your inner peace is the moment you choose me again? That's what God whispers when you sit in silence. He is waiting for you to stop so He can begin to heal you, waiting for you to stop begging for love so He can fill your heart with peace. Do you remember the last time you trusted that inner voice? The last time you confidently walked away from something wrong, even when no one understood you? The last time you chose stillness instead of promises? Perhaps it's been a long time. But today, you can choose again. You can sit down, not to beg someone to return, but to receive yourself once more. Write down this sentence as a soul declaration: I choose my peace. Because the moment you choose yourself again, heaven can take over the rest. You don't need to force yourself to be strong. You just need to be honest enough to admit, "I felt unsafe for a long time, but I was afraid to leave. I hoped they would change, but I forgot to ask, what about me? I let someone make me doubt myself more than I trusted the voice of God." Dear Taurus, your inner compass has never left you. You just need to stop turning away from it. And if today you're looking for a sign, this is it. This is the whisper God is sending to you through your very own heart and through every word you're hearing. If you are in a relationship that your gut tells you to leave, write down, "I choose peace." That is a vow. The first step. The beginning of a journey back to where God is waiting for you. And you know what? When a soul chooses to trust in God again, to trust in itself again, the universe begins to open doors you once thought were never meant for you. In the next part, you will witness a miracle happening when you are no longer the one begging for love, but the one who walks with light inside and lets that light lead a love that matches your frequency to come find you. You thought you were being left behind, but in truth, you were being chosen. so he could rewrite a new path made just for you. You were not left behind. You were called out to begin again with a higher purpose. You are still here, quiet, silent, sometimes unsure whether to move forward or turn back. You've heard so many times that if they left, they weren't worthy of you. Stay strong. This too shall pass. But you know what, dear Taurus? Some goodbyes can't be simplified like that. Because you loved with all your stability. You laid down your heart, holding nothing back. You didn't just lose a person. You lost a world you built. And if you are in that moment, that most fragile moment of awakening, then please listen to me slowly and gently. You were not abandoned by God. You were just pulled away from something you no longer need to be tied to, because what He is about to give you will never again make you doubt yourself. You may not understand it all today. You may still love. You may still be holding on to something that no longer resonates. But you don't need to understand everything today. You just need to believe this. God is guiding you to where your soul can be reborn. You are not moving backward. You are retreating from an old frequency to rise higher. You are not losing anything. You are freeing yourself from what has expired. You are not alone. You are in the midst of transformation, where every soul is refined before stepping into a new mission. Taurus, you are not made to live a dull life. You are stability, you are devotion, you are the symbol of loyal love. The kind of love the world is slowly forgetting. And that is why you must learn to love your own peace first. You must learn to let go at the right time. You must learn to rise even when all you have left is silence. But you are not walking alone. God walks beside you. He has walked with you this entire journey, from the moment you began to doubt, to the moment you broke down, to the moment you went silent and heard the voice from within. He was there, never leaving. And today, if you are hearing these words, it's because He wants you to know you are enough. You have completed the lesson. Now it is time for me to take you to what you truly deserve. No more dependence, no more begging, no more being defined by someone else's love, but by my love, the love no one can ever take from you. Write down under this video a commitment to your soul. I understand. I choose to trust in God and to choose my peace again. You may still remember them, but you no longer need to hold on. You may still be grateful for the memories, but you no longer need to live in the past. True love does not drain you, and God will never use love to punish you. From today on, start again. Not with hope that the old one will return, but with the faith that the right one will be sent by God at the most divine time. You are not being left behind. You are being chosen. You are not being rejected. You are being lifted up. And if you are brave enough to let go today, you will see that peace is real, and that peace has always been waiting for you, just beyond the moment you choose yourself. To the Taurus soul quietly listening until these final seconds, you've done so well. Now, you are allowed to be happy. You are allowed to begin anew without needing an apology. And you are allowed to be loved without having to trade yourself for it. If you feel that any part of this video touched you, leave it a heart or write a message. Who knows? The words you write today may become the light that guides another Taurus tomorrow.